When you're dealing with an abundance of information, how does that impact your business? I'm Alyssa Blackburn, and the Tech Edge starts now. Welcome to the Tech Edge, presented by AvePoint, where each episode we delve into the latest trends for business, IT, and their significance in today's landscape. In this episode, we're diving into the latest innovations that are reshaping industries and driving success. Joining us now is Jordan Uterhagen, founder and CEO of Cadence Solutions. A digital transformation trailblazer, Jordan and his team have spearheaded over 100 successful implementations across industries like energy, finance, and the public sector. Jordan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Alyssa. Good to see you.
You too. Hey, Jordan, we talked a little bit about exponential data growth, and I was looking at some statistics today that say there's 147 zettabytes of content out there, which is just over 1 trillion gigabytes, to put that in, real person language. How is this exponential growth of data impacting organizations in 2025?
Yeah, the growth is definitely exploding, and what we're seeing is the need for data security and compliance have finally found their moment in the industry. It's not just about searching your data any longer. It's not just about putting it through e-discovery. If you don't have it secured and you're not compliant with the regulations, you're going to have a hard time convincing anybody that it's worthwhile to use that data.
So we know also that organisations don't just have everything in the one system, as much fun as that would be. Most definitely, they've got data and information all over the place. How can businesses effectively pull from those systems for cohesive decision-making processes? If I've got something over here and something over there, how do I get to a good decision?
Yeah, to dive into the technical side, it's all done with integrations and APIs. To dive into the other side of it, and the trends that we see here at Cadence is the consolidation or the sunsetting of the old systems. So we work with a lot of companies that end up with 3, 4, 5 document management systems. You don't need that many. Not every department is special. You can consolidate those into maybe one system or integrate a few to have it more cohesive. Layering on that security, that compliance, just makes life a lot easier in the technical world, specifically with maintenance.
I love your reference there to the special departments. Everyone immediately is going to that special department that they know of in their organisation, definitely. But you're absolutely right. Having information spread across multiple systems just isn't useful, because if I can't see a full picture of what's going on, how do I actually action something or make a good decision about it? So let's talk about what technologies or tools are most effective in achieving data abstraction and integration. So looking at our data both from an individual perspective, but also looking at it in context with other like and relevant information.
Yeah, what we see a lot is case management is both a blessing and a curse in the content management world. So you end up with all these disparate case management systems. They all try to store documents effectively and govern them, but the real solution is to embed another technology in them, so a content management system, or to link the documents from within that system out to something like an AvePoint. You can actually have those integrations centralized for the governance that would be required for those.
So Jordan, one other thing I think is really interesting is, I guess, putting some of this technology where the user works, but maybe not putting it directly in front of them, but building it into their processes, or what I like to call information management by stealth. They call me Blackburn 007. Nobody calls me that, but it's fine. But when we're talking about how we're engaging with end users and getting them to interact with part of these processes, how do you think automation is transforming the way that employees are working, and how are we building some of this automation into their ongoing working practices?
Yeah, the automation side is always interesting, because you have the users that don't want to change. They're probably coasting, looking for their pension in a few years. And then you have the users you're trying to keep up with. They're going to use the tools at their disposal, and unless you're either blocking them or enabling them, they're not going to be with you either. So you end up in this middle ground as you're trying to deploy the technology. And I'll give you an example. We work with a lot of clients that have accounts payable departments. It's a heavy keyboarding, keying activity for those departments, and deploying something as simple as a capture software that can capture the line items off an invoice, that can capture the total and do some light validation, really makes their job a lot more effective and less mundane to do that. And those are the kind of repetition and repetitive projects that we end up seeing. And it's kind of meeting those users where they're at in terms of doing that light automation without going, full scale AI or anything that may spook them.
And I think you make a really interesting point there as well in terms of making the user's time more valuable. Do we really want our users to be just keying data when we can get, we can use automation to do something like that, therefore transitioning them to other more valuable, more interesting work? So I think a lot of discussion goes on about, AI is going to put us, or automation is going to put us all out of a job and we won't need to do this, that and the other anymore. I don't think it's so much about that. I think it's about changing how we do things, and reimagining what our jobs can be. So rather than taking away, I think it's about enhancing, really.
Yeah, and even for myself, I'll use certain technologies to aid in writing or rephrasing. You write an email and you're upset and you tell GPT or Copilot to make it sound nicer, and it'll help you without having the real words come out quickly.
That has literally never happened to me. I have no frame of reference.
I don't believe it.
Of having to sit on an email before I actually press send. Never happened to me before at all. Jordan, tell us a little bit about how organisations can ensure that automation empowers employees rather than replacing them.
So I think it leads into what I was mentioning before. You kind of have to meet them where they're at. You're going to have these evangelist departments that are going to race forward and use the latest technology. Years ago, they'd all sign up for Dropbox because it was easy to share things. And that was empowering but risky because we didn't know where the data was stored. If you were in North America, the Patriot Act was a concern for other organizations. In terms of empowering the general employee as opposed to the department, it's kind of about making their 9 to 5 better. What would make your position or your duties better? We're not here to holistically eliminate this position. We're not here to fully automate the duties, because sometimes that's just not even possible. But what would aid in this? Side story on that, I worked with another accounts payable organization or department in an organization, and their process was to flag emails different colors in Outlook all day, every day. And that was their workflow.
Flags.
And it was painful. There was 6 ladies that did it. They didn't like it. And deploying something as a simple workflow engine, which that technology's been around for decades, made their lives so much easier with empowering them in automation without threatening them in any way in terms of their 9 to 5.
And I think in that particular example that you've given us, we also need to look at like the quality of that outcome. Is putting automation in going to lead us to a better quality of outcome than having to have people remember the 6 different email coloured flags, or getting it wrong and therefore sending things off in a wrong direction, or not making a good decision because we've relied on somebody to have to remember that, rather than telling a machine, hey, here's the 6 things we need you to look for. Just go and do it. So I think there's a quality thing in this particular scenario as well.
Absolutely. And we got into auditing, right? There was no auditing before. So now that you can audit who did what and when, you had KPIs, all because of a simple workflow engine. We don't have to go full-scale AI to have significant improvement in organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point. And this is what I say all the time, to the point where I really am nagging. But that is, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. So what I mean by that is, just do something. It can be something really small, in like the example that you've given, but really, really valid and really valuable. So start with something and then build and get a little bit better and a little bit more mature and a little bit further down that path. So in light of that then, Jordan, tell us what advice you've got for organisations that are looking to stay ahead of these trends and remain competitive. What should people be doing? Where should they be starting? What should they be looking at?
So one of the trends in trying to stay ahead with the trends is we're seeing organizations do innovation labs and trialing technology now, which I've been doing this almost 20 years. That wasn't as prevalent before. So now we're seeing they're dabbling in AI from an innovation perspective, a trial perspective, a proof of concept. They're trying to roll out different techs, but in a sheltered state where they can decide if it's valuable, and then find a sponsor area or department to take on something that they've incubated. And that works a couple of different ways. It gives the organization, knowledge internally without contractors and consultants, and it gives them a safe space to fail if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In terms of we talked earlier in the episode about, huge amounts of content growth and storage and things like that. What's your advice to organizations looking to tackle that particular problem?
Start doing disposition. I think that's what we'll both agree on.
Just get rid of stuff. That was me shouting at my daughter to clean her room. It's a whole other topic.
It's very very similar to how organizations don't clean up the house. It's you have to start somewhere. I think it's that delayed perfection. At times they're waiting for that perfect retention schedule, that fully signed off information management policy and plan, and at some point you just have to go grab the low-hanging fruit, back it up, archive it, purge it, whatever needs to be done, whatever you're allowed to do, and that's generally acceptable, but a hard thing. Letting go is a hard thing for a lot of organizations.
Absolutely, definitely. Jordan, this is such an important topic, and we're really grateful for your time and your advice to organizations who are looking to tackle this. I think if we could sum up really what we've talked about here today, it really is then that just start with something. Start with something small, tackle a problem, learn from it, and get better over a period of time. And I think that's a great thing to take into the rest of 25. So thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thank you very much.
This is Ticker. We'll be right back.
You're watching Ticker. We'll have more in just a few minutes.